Welcome back to Great Lakes Junction, everyone. One of the last videos of some home renovations that you'd seen was putting in the floor, that laminate floor in there. We continued that on and did that hallway upstairs with the same flooring. We want to get to this staircase now. So we're going to remove that carpet that's left on a few of the stairs. Not sure what we're going to end up doing with these stairs yet, as far as a covering or painting or anything like that. And we want to also do the railing at the same time. We know we're going to paint the spindles. Not sure what else we're going to do with the handrail and the main post, things like that. But we've got some different issues that we need to take care of first before we can do any of that. So there has been some damage done by dogs chewing on these spindles. You can see that one's chewed up a bit, a couple of them there. This corner one is rounded off somewhat. It's not square anymore. And that railing on the other side, and it also continues, you can see in the background there, underneath that wall, all the way along. Now those spindles are all in good shape over there, but on the sides of the staircase, there's a few of them we need to fix up. There's a few more chips kind of in the middle of one of the spindles there. So we're going to use some wood filler. It's going to take a bit to dry. We're going to have to layer it because it's too thick to just fill it all in at once. So I'm going to start with putting wood filler in that so it can start drying. And then we'll turn our attention to the stairs and we'll remove this carpet. And from this angle, if you look right there where the floor is at the top, you can see that the left side, well, it's my left, I'm not sure if it will be on the screen, is higher or thicker than the right hand side. The staircase was installed crooked. When I removed the carpet that was in the hallway before, I found the plywood subfloor on the right hand side was lower than that top threshold of the step, and on this left hand side the plywood was higher than the threshold of the step. So I'm going to need to make a custom end cap for that top step. I haven't exactly figured out, what I'm going to do for doing that yet, but I have to come up with something. So that's where we're going to get started. I'm going to get a paint scraper and scrape off the rest of that under padding that is stuck to the top of the stairs, and we'll remove all those tack strips that they have on. And it looks like we're going to get a vacuum and vacuum this all up now. nails, staples. The rough spots are scraped off. We've got some stains in the treads there. We'll have some more wood filling to do from the nail holes and staple holes, things like that. So we're going to hit it with some pretty aggressive sandpaper to start. We have an 80 grit sandpaper on our orbital sander. We'll see what that does to clean up some of these stains. That may help us decide what we're going to do to cover these, whether those stains clean up or not. So we've done all of our sanding that we can do on here. Some of the stains did lighten up, but as you can see, they're still there. So I think we've decided to go with a paint, I believe, on these treads now. We might thin it down and try a bit of a wash first, see if it covers it. If it doesn't, then we'll just go over it and paint them out. And our spindles that you'd seen us start on earlier, we're on our second application of wood filler on those now. Probably going to have to sand that and then do a light third coat just to finish smoothing them out. That should get us back to having all of our square edges on our spindles again. So we've decided we are going to paint the handrails and the spindles. Spindles will be the white trim color, handrails will be a gray color. Now, I'm not going to sand all of this. It would just take another week worth of sanding to do all of these spindles. So I've got this product, they call a Bullseye 1-2-3 primer, and it's specifically for going over top of varathaned, things like that. So the primer will bond to that material, and then you can paint over the primer. I've gone ahead and taped off with green painter's tape the perimeter all around the floor and the walls where I don't want to get it. For me, it's faster to do the taping and then just paint than it is to take my time and make sure I'm not getting paint where I don't want it. So I just find the tape gives you a much cleaner job when you're finished. Well, our primer work is all finished. So we've got railing done, a little bit of the side of the step down there, this railing, and all the way along the bottom of that wall. It's a lot of spindles. I think it took me somewhere around 5 hours to do all that primer work. So we'll let that dry good overnight, and tomorrow we'll start doing it all over again with paint. So we have our 2 coats of our white finish now done over top of that primer. So our railings, spindles, those are done. So now we're out to the gray color. We're doing the base plate under the spindles, the gray, and the actual handrails, banister rails, they'll be the gray also. And then we're leaving these steps till last. We'll thin this paint down some more and see if we can do a wash on these or not. If not, then we'll paint them the same gray that we're painting that. It's time to move on and finish this up doing the staircase. But before we can do anything with the stairs, we need to make this custom bull nose for this top step here. So remember me talking about how the floor was out of alignment with the staircase. So our thickness here is 2 inches thick on this side and we're only 1 3/4 inches over on that side. And the change in it is from here to the corner. Also, this floor moves just in this spot because of that, because the floor is trying to keep itself flat instead of following that contour. So we'll go out to the garage and I'll show you what I've got planned for this. Okay, so I found this old 2x6 out behind the shed. I think it came from that deck that we tore off the side of the house a couple years ago. So I've already measured the width of the staircase for everything that I needed to cut that way. So the length of this is what I need for the width of that staircase. And I'm going to rip it down to 2 inches wide. That'll cover that highest point of where the floor was. So now I'll take that in. I think I need to do some notching out and stuff in the ends. I'll take it back in and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so on this side here, I've cut that piece you just saw me cut on the table saw to sit right up against here, which is under the edge of this. So I just need to notch out a little bit of this top corner on that side. And on this side, it's going to come right up to the height of this floor. So I need to notch out for this corner here around that. So my wood will slide right up into here. And then the piece I'm going to use for the transition on top will go right to here, and everything will be supported and covered in. So I have the ends notched out. I went in, test fitted it, it was fine. So this sits on the top step, sits on top on that end, tucks up underneath on this end, and I pushed the floor down where that one spot was, and I pencil lined across the top of this. So it's hard to see the pencil mark on that darker wood. So I put a piece of tape on. It basically runs off to the edge of the wood up here. And I have 4 millimeters of material that I have to remove over on this side. I've got this jig that I just threw together a number of years ago for doing tapered legs. So the idea behind this, so my piece of wood that I'm cutting will sit against this stopper block. And I have this, it's almost closed here. And I have a gap up here of about 3 millimeters because the length of this is shorter than my piece of wood. And I need 4 millimeters coming off the end of the wood. So that'll run along my rip fence, and the angle that that's on will hopefully be the angle that I need to take off that piece of wood. We'll see how this goes. Pretty close to being right on that tape line. I'll leave the tape there, take this in and try and see how the test fit goes. And if I need to take it down just a little bit more, I can probably just sand that down now to the edge of that tape if I need to. So I did sand that down with 80 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander to get down to my profile line of the green painter's tape there. Now the bull nose on the stairs are rounded over top and bottom edge both. The biggest bit I have that I can put in this table is a 3/4 inch round over bit. Should be probably a 1 inch to match the rest of the stairs. So I'll get it down as far as I can with this one, and then I'll use the sander just to round it off a little bit further with the sander. That round over bit I was using was a 1/2 inch round over bit. Sorry, I thought it was 3/4, but it was only 1/2. Now we've changed our bit, set our table back up differently, and I'm cutting a channel, just a straight
channel out of another side here. This is my second pass. I didn't want to go full depth on the first pass. This is my second pass. Hopefully it'll be deep enough, and I'll show you what I'm doing that for. Let's see if I can get this on camera for you. So this will be the front face of the step. This will be the top. So I was making that channel in there, or rather the groove in there for this channel. And this is my final transition piece. It's called T-molding. So when that gets hammered into that channel, it's a one-time deal. Once that's hammered in, you're not going to get it out without breaking it. So I wanted to set this groove a little deeper than what the channel was. And the reason for that, when you screw this channel down, the screw heads stick up that little bit. So when this hits the screw head, it may not be in all the way, and there could be a gap between here and your actual floor surface. So by sinking this down a little bit lower to account for the thickness of the channel and the screw head sticking up, I can hammer that right down. It'll be flat here, and this should give me enough clearance not to be banging into those screws. So we've got our little bench drill press set up here now. I'm going to attach this to the steps with 4 screws. I've already drilled 1/8" holes all the way through with just a standard 1/8" drill bit. It's longer than this bit that I have in here now. It's hard to see this on the camera with the lighting in here. That's a 1/8 bit, but it has a countersink head over top of that bit. And I've got the depth set to where I want it to be for that countersink portion. I'll drill a scrap piece of wood here so you can see what I'm doing it for. Okay, now we're going to change bits in here. And we're going to put this one in. I know it's a strange looking drill bit. For anyone who's never seen one of these, this is a plug cutter. So that's what it gives you. It cuts that little plug. Put a screwdriver in there and they just snap off. So you get a little round wooden plug. So when you put your screw in your hole, that countersink head that's on the other screw matches the side of those plugs. So then you can glue that plug in there over top of your screw. When it dries, sand that off flush. You'll never know you had a hole drilled in your wood. So because I'm screwing that on, and the screw holes will be right in front of your face on the steps, I'm going to plug the holes afterwards with these plugs. I can't tell you the exact mixing ratio that I used here for this. The same gray paint that I used on the handrail, I started with it. It was already watered down. If you saw the video where I did the china cabinet, I watered this down to put it through my spray gun. I don't know how much water was in that, but I started with a little bit of that in this cup, added more water to it, and I wanted to get it darker because when I wiped it off, the lightness of the wood was making it too light of a gray. So I found some water-based black that I had around, and I've added black to it. So I've come up with a much darker gray color. So we're going to put this on just as if you were painting it. But before you go too far, before it has a chance to dry on you too much, we're going to wipe that off. So it's darkened it up considerably. That was just the gray with water in it that I tried before. And this is after I've added the black to it. So you can see the wood grain still coming through that. That's what we wanted to have on the actual stairs.
Well, you saw how the wash was coming out on those stairs and it was showing the wood grain through. But I also had that bright light there that I was using to see what I was doing. Well, after everything dried and we took the light away, we decided it was too dark. We didn't like it. So we're going to go ahead and paint everything out with the same gray color that we used on the banister rails. Our piece we put on and one of our drilled countersunk holes, our plugs that we cut. We're just going to put a little bit of glue on. I don't want much glue on there. I don't want enough glue that it's going to plug up the head of that screw. If I want to drill these out at any time, I still want to be able to use a screwdriver in there to take that screw back out. So turn these so the grain of the wood is matching the grain of the wood in the piece that you're putting it into. It'll help hide it later when you sand it off. So when that's set, dried in there, we'll sand that off. They sand off really easy. So it's flush, we'll paint over them, and you'll never even know they were there. Well, I'm happy with how this turned out. I've got a couple of small spots to touch up where some gray is on some white yet. Those spindles that we started in the very beginning, building them back up with the wood filler. So they've turned out good. There's our custom made piece of wood that we have at the top. After we've sanded off the pegs and painted them over, you can't even see where they were. So very happy with how this job turned out. That concludes another video. Thank you very much for watching.